Hello and welcome back to Journals for Breakfast. My name is Andrea and I am so happy you've joined me here and you're so welcome here. This community is bringing me a lot of joy and this is episode number 4. So we're pretty new into the game here. And thank you so much for those of you who've commented or joined me over on Instagram. Instagram is also Journals for Breakfast and sent me photos of some of the journaling that you've been doing and some of the collages that you've been making. It's really fun to know that this community is building and we're inspiring each other in this space. It's exactly why I've made this space for us. Okay, so episode 4. What I want to talk about in this episode is part 1. We're going to talk about tarot decks. If you have watched the previous few episodes, you know that within each episode, the roundup at the end, I always pull a card from either an oracle or a tarot deck as a inspiration for us, maybe a journal prompt or inspiration going forward for the week. And a few of you have messaged me and asked me if I'll talk a little bit more about my practice with tarot cards and oracle decks, how I use them day to day, or do I even use them every day, and how they work into a journaling practice for me. So I'm going to share about that here today. And show you a few of the decks that I have. And I also have 2 new ones that we can open up together. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Traveler's Journal passport size. I did a video on this channel. I don't think it was an actual podcast episode. Maybe it was, but I feel like it was just one of those little bonus ones that I threw up here because I was working on trying to clean this up. Spoiler, it doesn't get cleaned up. And I showed you guys this Traveler's passport size collection of notebooks that I keep with me. I call this my little pocket brain. Boy, did I get a lot of responses to that. And I have a couple updates for you. So a new insert that I have for that. And in that episode, if you'd like to go back and watch that one, we were talking about things that fit in the Traveler's passport size that aren't actual Traveler's brand. And so I have a little update on those notebooks from Hobby Lobby as well. But then I also have a little bit of an acquisition within there too, to show you some items I ordered one from Etsy and one from Amazon. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is acquisitions in podcasts and how we feel about that. Personally, I love them. I love seeing what the creators that I follow bring me so much inspiration that I'm very curious to know about their tools and their joys and just the things they're adding to their lives. So I find it a lot of fun. But I know that some people don't love acquisitions in podcasts, that segment. And so it's why a lot of podcasters put it at the end, as I'm kind of doing today, so that you can just blow through that if you're not interested in it. But I'm really interested in it. But I also want to talk a little bit about acquisitions and our choices with purchases. You know, are we being inspired or are we being influenced? And I think that's a fun little chat to have. And I have a cool resource for a podcast that might get your mind thinking about that too. So the plan is to take a look at some tarot decks. I've already read for you guys from the Oracle deck, which is Work Your Light Oracle cards. We've already done a pull from this, and I love this deck. It's beautiful artwork and really nice messages. And then we've done Guardian of the Night, and we pulled from this in the last episode. We pulled that beautiful lion card. So I'll show you, in fact, what he inspired for me personally. I'd love to know if you were inspired by that pull for anything in yours. And then the Essential Tarot, I got him not too terribly long ago and have done a few pulls from this deck just for myself. And then I have 2 new ones, the Luna Soul Tarot deck. So let's take a look at him together. I haven't opened him up yet, so we'll take a look at what that looks like. And then the Wildwood Tarot is a new purchase for me as well. Look at the artwork. Look at that. I mean, is he a shaman? I don't know. It's so mystical and so beautiful. How can we not find inspiration in some way from just that incredible artwork? is just so fantastic. So I'm really curious to see how he looks. And so I'm going to go into an overhead to talk about the tarot practice that I use. And I will tell you that I found this book at Barnes and Noble one time on the $5 shelf. You know how they do out front, those big shelves that come down and everything out there is like $4.99 or whatever. And it's just an essential tarot deck reading. It gives you kind of a deeper dive into the classic tarot card meanings. And then it also gives you some ways to do like a tarot reading, like spreads, 3-card spreads, 5-card spreads. I will say, as we move into this real quick, to just remind you that I have absolutely no experience with reading tarot cards. I am in no way an advisor or anything of that nature. I use these decks solely for prompts for journaling, affirmations, maybe an inspiration for some artwork. I find the artwork of these decks beautiful. I find the messages within tarot decks inspiring and uplifting and intriguing, and they just get my mind going. So I just want to be really clear about that. If you're looking for someone to do tarot readings, you'll need to source that out. That's certainly not part of my practice or anything that I do. I just grab them because I think they're nifty. I mean, that's really it. So let's go into an overhead. And while we're in overhead mode, I'll show you some tarot decks and how I use them. There are about 4 different ways that a tarot card could inspire me for my journaling practice. In any given moment, we'll go through those. While we're still in overhead, I'm going to do that update on the traveler's passport information as well. I'll try to do a little chapter break in there so you can spot it. And then we'll come back face to face, and I want to talk a little bit about being influenced about purchases versus being inspired about purchases. And then we'll wrap up this episode as we always do. I'll pull a tarot card for us for today that hopefully will be a place of inspiration for you this week as well. So let's move to the overhead. Okay, welcome back to the land of overhead, and let's talk about tarot cards. So the first thing I'll mention is how I use them. I kind of have 4 ways that I use tarot cards as journaling prompts. One is that they will guide me in an actual written journal entry. It may serve as a kind of kicking off point for some creative writing or some introspection or some Dear Diary type stuff. The next thing is that sometimes I'll read a card or see an image on a card, and it will be the focal point for a meditation. So if I just want to sit quietly and find a place to put that center eye, right, that we're always looking for in the meditation, that sort of move to that center eye, get our breathing in check, and I can use the card's image as a place to put that focus, or a message from the card that I kind of repeat to myself through the meditation as my mind starts to drift, as you know it always does, into laundry lists, etc. I bring it back to that focal point from that reading that morning. And affirmations. Sometimes there's just something so powerful, a single line in one of these readings, that I'll write that down on a piece of paper and keep it with me for the day. And then I use these as inspiration for collage, and I'll show you examples of that. So that's the 4 ways that tarot cards kind of speak to me in my journaling practice. In one of the episodes, I mentioned in the opening, I thought it was the last one, and I don't think that's right, but in one of the episodes, our pull was this beautiful King of Wands. So what I'll do with a deck is when I pull a card, I will typically leave that card right on top of the deck when I close it up and put it away. So the next time I come to it, the last card that I pulled is there waiting for me. For one thing, if I am using that as a journal prompt and felt like I wanted to refer back to its messaging, it's sitting right on top and I'll remember what it was. Within the book itself, and so all the decks come with all these cards. You pull a card and then look up the meaning. And I often will underline them. It's my book, and I'm a big proponent of writing in your own books, whether they be novels or cookbooks. I always encourage people to make notes. I put when I pulled that card, the actual date, and then kind of what the key messaging for me within that reading was. And so King of Wands, when you are paid a visit by the king, you are directed to call upon your creativity and channel the entrepreneur within. This was really valuable to me in the reading because at that moment in time, I was just starting this channel and thought, okay, stick with it. You know, you're here to share your creativity and your love and passion for journaling. So do that. I don't know that it's entrepreneurial. It's not This isn't a, what am I trying to say, for-profit concept. This is just a sharing community. But I loved this message too. The lion is the king of the jungle. And when you call upon his spirit, you too will be infused with the passion for living. Isn't that a nice message? That's the kind of thing that I might write down on a small scrap of paper that just says, embrace your passion for living, and look at it a few times throughout the day. I have a tendency to battle some self-doubt, especially when I'm fatigued, when I'm really tired, it creeps in. And to just remind myself to embrace my passion for life every day is a nice message for myself. So that's an example of that one. And this particular deck I showed you, we looked at several cards in that episode. The artwork is just beautiful. And as I said, I'm not a healer or a psychic by any means. I am not trained in reading these cards. Look at the High Priestess, that bat hanging upside down. Oh my gosh, the artwork on these. Look at the chalice on the Ace of Cups with that lotus flower floating in the top. So the artwork on these is beautiful, and I buy decks based on that. If the artwork speaks to me, then it can come home with me and be a part of my journaling journey. So a straight up prompt or an affirmation or a meditation focus is how I will go with that. I believe actually the last episode we pulled from this Oracle deck. So Work Your Light Oracle cards. And by the way, how exotic of a shopper do you need to be to find these? I found them at Barnes & Noble. So, right, they're just out there. If you haven't found them, you just may not have been looking for them. So I got both of these at my Barnes & Noble at different times. Actually, I think I bought them probably a year apart. I don't buy a lot of decks, but this one, the Work Your Light Oracle cards, I just think the artwork in this is so beautiful as well. And the oracles just have such uplifting messages in them. So this deck, you can see why I was drawn to it. I mean, just these beautiful pastel. Look at this. Look at this image. Is that just glorious? It's just beautiful. Releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. So you'll do a reading in here just like you do with the others. You find the little booklet and go to it. And together we pulled Keepers of the Earth. That might have been in our last episode together. You are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. And then there's a deeper read here. And I used this pull from our last episode that we did together, Keepers of the Earth. You are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. Look at the beautiful artwork on this. There's just so much peace and I would say power and strength and wisdom in the elephants and focal meditation and spirits guiding us. This card just really, really spoke to me. Anyway, so what I did with that card was created a little mini collage in this guy. And so this became the prompt. That card became the prompt for this little collage that's in the back page of one of my traveler's notebook, passport size. This one is this is some of that cardstock paper that I showed you in the video where I do a deep dive into this traveler's passport notebook I carry with me. You are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. You deserve to be rewarded for the work you are doing. Open your heart and mind to receiving more than you ever thought possible. And so I just did some watercolor on that paper and then went crazy with my favorite washies. And then wrote the messaging in and added this beautiful sticker. I will put a link in the description to the things that I use for this. This is from Chapteries. She is out of Paris, France, and her items for journaling and collage are some of my favorites. And it's so fun to order something from France and wait for it to show up. It is just a treat. So yeah, so that's another way. So an actual journal prompt, sit down, write based on what's been read. But collage is another way that I go. And I'll show you that the collage part of it is so invaluable to me. This is another passport cover right? Traveler's passport size cover, also from Windrose Custom Goods, which I have linked in descriptions and in comments throughout these, and I'll link them again. Remember in our discussion about the passport size, I mentioned these sketch pads from Hobby Lobby. We'll talk more about those in a minute, but that's what's in here. So these are the little sketch pads. You see they're not very big. Mine are all blown out because they're full of paper. And that's that. So I'll pop one out if I can find the release on it. So here's where I've got this strapped in. A collection of readings that began in 2023. And so when a card just really speaks to me and makes me want to go for a collage, then that's what I will do. I'll use the card to create the inspiration. So in this one, I actually even put the messaging that came with the card so I could refer back to that. This was the Hanged Man. And this was one of my very first collages. I love putting a little pocket. And then I got this off of a card. And so I put the name of the artist that card was from. Like a card, meaning like a greeting card that I cut down for this, into that little pocket. Hanged Man, new perspective, patient observer, compassionate, and the date that I pulled that. This one really spoke to me. The Seven of Swords was about solitude and independence. Call on this energy to be a leader and guide you on a path of dignity and honor, pride and strength. And then I found, this is from a postcard that I bought when I was in New Mexico with my sister. And so I tore her image out from that postcard because she just embodied to me independence and dignity and honor and pride and strength. So it was a really fun one to put together. And I like putting movable parts in my collages. And then there's the date that I pulled that particular card tucked in there. I put a live oak in here. Live oaks are a big part of our story here in the South, and they are absolutely a sign of honor and strength. The live oaks that are around some here are more than 100 years old. So, this one was funny. I had my book upside down and inadvertently put together an upside down. This was a Seven of Wands. It was an alligator was the image on it. And when you commit to your place, you will be unshakable. That was apparently the message with that one, or the message, the part of the message that spoke to me. This one definitely has some pull-out stuff on it. Grace is a state of mind and heart. I did the watercolor on that, is where that came from. And so this was a Queen of Pentacles, and the image they used was the cow. Grace, nourishment, sacred guardianship, good fortune, and focus. So you get the concept here. So it's really fun, and it's one of my favorite ways to get some inspiration for either a color scheme within a collage. So there was a message in here that I left myself about what that card was. So a color scheme or an animal or something along those lines. I shared this one on the Instagram page. This was the Wheel of Fortune, healing, transformation, and energy. So that's what I do with that. And like I said, those are those just little little scrap notebooks from Hobby Lobby. And this entire book is just collage. These are ones that aren't inspired by anything. They're just collages that I've just put together because it was fun to glue paper to paper. It's one of my favorite hobbies and one of my favorite ways to create. But I keep this little book of the Oracle and or Tarot deck inspired ones in here as well. So that's another way that I will be inspired by tarot cards. So a few decks that I have we can take a peek at. This is the Luna Soul that's brand new. I've not opened this one yet. Luna Soul Tarot deck, and I actually did order this one online, but I was in Barnes & Noble recently picking up a book, and they have added even more to mine. So the Luna Soul Tarot these little books, I like to read the little foreword and introduction. It'll tell us a little bit about the interpretations and whatnot. So I think that's worth reading so you kind of understand the focus of these. And this one sticks with some of the basic tarot, right? The Fool, the Magician, etc. But it's always fun to see different interpretations of those readings and what those look like. And I thought that the artwork on this was really fun. The High Priestess, beautiful, really cool. So a little bit more casual style drawings, and so really beautiful. This is the back of those cards. Night and day, heaven and earth. Really pretty. So that's the Luna Soul. And then the Essential Tarot, I actually have opened this one. I'm not sure if we did a reading from this one or not, but I loved the images on this, again, because it goes with the base tarot, but with just completely different images than I've seen for tarot cards. And I think that's really fun. And of course, because I'm using them for inspiration in creative ways, you know, it's nice to have artwork inspire you. So same thing, I would read the foreword, see what they have to say about it, and then take a look at the artwork. And I love to just go through, sorry about that light, and just kind of see their interpretation of these classic tarot images. Look at Temperance, she's beautiful. Wow. Wheel of Fortune. Hanged Man. I've gotten that. I've pulled that card many times through my life. Two of Swords. Look at the Eight of Pentacles. Anyway, so beautiful deck, right? Really fun. So if you haven't ever bought a tarot deck and you're curious about them, I say what I would look for is the artwork that is most appealing to you. The messaging within it will always inspire. I think it's always going to be interesting. So this one is that one I showed you with that mystic, I don't know what he is, a shaman of some kind. Look at him. Oh, so the artwork just spoke to me on this. The Wildwood Tarot, and I've never opened this, so we're doing this together. I say a lot today. Wildwood Tarot. Look at the size of this book. I love that for the reading. So the Seer, the Green Woman. All right, so I'll read more depth into this one. For those of you who know your tarot really well, this probably means more to you at this moment than it does to me. But it looks to me like we're into a different style or different level of messages and or icons, which is really exciting. So that is going to be really fun to dig into. And let's look at the artwork. Just so gorgeous. I mean, do you ever get tired? Look at that shaman. Of seeing what people are capable of creating. One of my favorite sayings, I mean, it is such a favorite saying. It's like tattoo worthy. Like get it tattooed for real. Is art is the highest form of hope. And that message has meant a lot to me in my life. But, you know, when things are hard in our world, people are suffering, politics are in trouble, war is taking place. Art is the highest form of hope. When I look at art history and consider how long we have been creating, when you look at those Paleolithic cave drawings in France, you know, it's inherent, right, in the human experience to both create and enjoy art. And archaeologists, I heard recently, I know that archaeologists look for human activity if they ever see a 90-degree angle, then they know they have found a place where human beings have been, because there are no natural 90-degree angles in nature. That's human action. But the other thing that will tell them that humans have been involved in the space that they are looking at is if there is any form of art. Just think about that for a minute. We are the only ones who do that, who just choose to create. for no purpose other than the absolute enjoyment and expression. I just think it's incredible. Look at these. Look at him. So this is going to be a really fun deck to get into. Okay. So we'll look more at him together throughout the series, because I will always pull a card for us at the end of an episode. So you'll definitely get readings out of him as well. And now I said I would do a little pause. So I'll put a little break in here, visually kind of a fold over, so that you know we're moving into the next section, which is an update on the Traveler's Passport notebooks. Okay, so the Traveler's Passport Pocket Brain, I have a whole video here on that, so feel free to check that out. I go into great detail about what all of this is. But in that episode, I mentioned that I get a lot of the inserts from the Traveler's company. This is their actual notebooks, their brand. I get a lot of these on Amazon, and I am definitely trying, I don't know that I'm succeeding, but I am trying to lessen my Amazon footprint this year and going forward. And so I wanted to look up a few makers on Etsy to see if I could find some folks that were creating Traveler's Passport items that don't come from Amazon. So for one is my cover, which I've shared with you guys, which is the Windrose Custom Goods. They're on Etsy. You can find them and get covers custom made for all of your Travelers sizes. If you do their A5s or their Classic Traveler, which, you know, is longer, which, by the way, I'm tempted to go there, but we'll talk about that another time. This beautiful Hunter Green is also from Windrose Custom Goods and also is in passport size. So I'm trying to do better about finding items in smaller places, but occasionally I just have to go with what's available. And sometimes Amazon is the answer. I wanted to do a quick update on these. These are definitely not a small seller. This is Hobby Lobby 4-pack, $5.99 of these notebooks with this kind of cardstock paper. And they do fit nicely within that passport sizing. So they're a good price. What I'll say about them is I told you I would check them out for watercolor. They are acid free and they definitely work well for sketching. I don't know that I have any sketches in here. They definitely work well for sketching. They take pencil really beautifully, but I did test them out for watercolor just out of curiosity, and the answer is not great. You can't really see it on camera, but where this blur happens, that is actually a fold over of the paper. When water hit it, the paper literally shrunk in and stacked on itself. It folded up. And so, I mean, you know, I'm not by any means an artist, and so what quality paper I use is not a huge concern to me. But if I just, this isn't rated for watercolor, and I'm here to tell you, it definitely wonked the paper out a bit when I tried to put water on it. This one did a little bit better. I went a little bit lighter hand with the water, but if you're a watercolor artist, again, I am not, but if you are, I think you'd be disappointed with the hard lines and the pooling and things like that, because this paper just isn't rated for it. But, you know, it still makes a pretty little notebook. I do like it for collage. This paper is acid free and it grabs the glue and just lets me go to town on collage. So I've loved it for that. So those are those little 4-packs. I still think they're worth doing, but if you are a watercolor artist, you might want to invest in Traveler's Notebook watercolor paper, which I have to show you. Buried away in my life here, I have this. Okay. So this I did get on Amazon. I couldn't find a small seller who was carrying this specifically. I'll do a deeper dive, and feel free to comment here with small sellers that you love, whether you go directly to their website, small website, or if you go to their Etsy shop. I'm happy to share that information in the comments for myself and for anyone who is interested in that. So this was watercolor paper for the Traveler's Notebook by the Traveler's Company. And so I gave it a test run. This actually came on Amazon as a 2-pack, which was a pretty good deal. And it actually did really well with watercolor paints. So there's no warping. The paper held up really well. It took the paint well. It didn't bleed through. You can see on the other side, there's no bleed through. So really nice. And also it's perforated right here. There's a little fold that I'm not making very clear. There you go. It's perforated right there. So if I wanted to tear that out, and do something with that. If I do a painting that I don't adore, I rip it up and use it in my collages. But yeah, so I'm going to give a thumbs up on the Traveler's watercolor insert. Listen, it's not amazing watercolor paper, but it's better than that sketch pad is what I'm saying. If you're trying to create incredible artwork in this scale, in this size, I would cut watercolor paper down to this size, right? And use it in that way. Okay. But next up, I did find a small seller who had some passport size stuff, and I thought I'd show you her groovy stuff. So this was Just G Paper Company, and she's out of California, and she had a passport size Traveler's Notebook, TN, Traveler's Notebook insert in blush. And so I ordered a notebook from her, and it is called the Blush because the papers inside all have this sort of pinky tinge and or are actually pink, which is so pretty. And to tell you how true to size it is to a passport Traveler's Company notebook, ta-da, exact. So Just G. And purchasing from an Etsy seller, I think, is so enjoyable for a couple of reasons. One, don't you love supporting small? Of course you do. We all do. It feels better to support a small maker out of California than give a multi-bajillionaire more of my money. But you want to know something else that's fun about this? Waiting for it. I'm not kidding. You know, Amazon will be there tomorrow. That's great. I mean, if you're out of toilet bowl cleaner, that's handy of Amazon, I have to admit. But at the end of the day, when it comes to things that are gifts to me, part of my crafting, part of my art, I like waiting for them. You know, I'm out on a walk with a dog and I realize that it's been a week since I put an order in, and it occurs to me I might want to check the mail. And there's a little flutter of excitement that there might be something waiting for me out there. I am really enjoying slowing down that Amazon rush at you and just wait a bit for it. The other thing I'll say about Etsy sellers, as far as I've experienced, as well as small businesses that run their own website, there doesn't seem to be any minimum. It doesn't matter what I order, they send it to me. If all I had ordered was this notebook, she would have put it in the mail to me. I think that's really cool for small businesses to not require a minimum purchase of some kind before they'll put their effort into it. The other thing that I got from her was this pack of little journaling bric-a-brac. So it came in this, and it's just random stuff. I don't know if she had a theme behind it. Like, did I order one that was, I don't know, vintage themed or something? I don't really remember. But it is full of the most fun stickers and vellums and little notes. This is the kind of thing that if an affirmation jumps out at me from a tarot reading, I'll write it on the back of that and slip it into my pocket for the day and just remind myself of some nice positive thoughts for the day. It came with stickers, actual stickers that are so cool. So just a really fun assortment. How fun is it to get that in the mail? Are you kidding? Especially for somebody that's a tear and paste collager like I am. So a couple of acquisitions there. Go for small companies where we can. Let's support it and embrace the wait. I actually think it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to go back to a face-to-face and let's talk for a minute about acquisitions in podcasts and when we are influenced and when we are inspired. Is there a difference? Let's chit-chat for a minute. Okay, so welcome back face-to-face. So acquisitions in podcasts. I love an acquisition section in a podcast, especially my knitting podcast that I love to watch. I'm always curious about the yarns that they're using, where they've found certain patterns. I absolutely love it. And I will also say that one of my favorite podcasters often shows items that she's purchased that have brought a lot of joy to her that week, that month, that year, whatever. And I've found some really neat items through watching her as well. But I've heard from some of the podcasters, if you just listen to them while they're talking about their episode, as I mentioned in the beginning, many of them, sorry, I have yarn on my face. Many of them will say that they're going to do acquisitions, but at the very end, because so many people have written them that they hate acquisitions sections in podcasts, so they put at the end so that people can enjoy their podcast up to that point and then tune out. I thought that was kind of interesting. And I think one of the things that we have to figure out when we're watching anything on Instagram, social media, any of our podcasts, any of our YouTube, I think the big question we have to ask ourselves every time is, have we been inspired or have we been influenced? And I do think that there is a difference. So what is the difference for that to you? I would say to some degree, inspired is when I'm shown something that I immediately recognize could relieve something in my own life. So I've been struggling with, and this person has found an item that could solve that struggle. Or I'm immediately attracted to the use of that item. Like I just absolutely can see where that would make sense in my morning, in my routine, in my day, in my home. I just spot it instantly. I just get it. Whereas influenced is when the appeal of the item is because for some reason that person's appeal is more of what I'm kind of leaning into. Do I want to look like them or dress like them or appear like them in some way? Inspired, it's going to have a place in my persona, in my insanity. It's got a spot in here. Influenced, I'm taking myself away from this and becoming something else, an image of myself, a desired me. That's my version of the two. But what I'll say about online influences is very simply, if you are considering purchasing something that you weren't considering purchasing before you watched an episode, the simple thing for me, my practice, is I just wait 24 hours. I just wait a day. Did I wake up today already knowing that my mop system is failing me, and I happen to throw on a podcast where my podcaster just got a brand new mop system and she loves it, and then I go buy that mop system? It was already part of my train of thought that week. But do I find myself buying a car detailing set at 10 o'clock in the morning with a cup of coffee, having never considered detailing my own car? Put the brakes on. What's spawning this thought that this thing needs to happen? You see what I'm saying about the difference between the two? So if the product is something that I've already been researching, considering, or can recognize immediately as failing, the version I have is failing, and somebody's found one that's supporting them, maybe I'll try it. But if I'm not positive, the answer is pause. Stick it in your cart and wait 24 hours. You can wait 24 hours for anything. And then, like I said, the next part of it is, do I find myself clicking a purchase button when I had no intention of making a purchase this morning, but the item is something that I instantly understood its value for me. It just was so appealing and so attractive. And of course, price to some degree will help with those influences as well. I don't make big, expensive impulse purchases. If something is over $100, I will always hold off for another 24 hours. I'm going to tell you that right now. We all have a different threshold, $40, $70, whatever yours is. For me, I would never just click on $100 for anything without really thinking it through. Things that happen for me easily are things that are probably $30 and under. I can kind of be like, meh, I'll give it a shot. So, but I wanted to share with you a podcaster that I think you might like, and then we'll wrap this up. This episode's getting long. And her name is Cara Nicole, and I'm going to put a link to her YouTube channel in my description. And I'm going to give you her byline, okay? So Cara Nicole, her videos is where she discusses the intersection between money, media, and intentional living. The intersection between money, media, and intentional living. That's what she researches, and that is what she pieces together for her videos. I found her accidentally a few years back, and the video that I watched was one that was talking about the phenomena of the designer bag, right? So you know what I'm talking about, like an LV or something like that. who that brand is actually marketed to and who is actually purchasing that brand. And her information was so interesting. I immediately subscribed to her channel. I watched maybe one more episode before I went over to her Patreon account and subscribed to her Patreon. I only pay for 2 podcasts in my world, and she is one of them. And the reason I put my $5 down on Cara Nicole is because the information she's bringing to the internet is so valuable, in my opinion, and so groundbreaking and so refreshing. And I think she might be the bravest human being on the internet right now for doing what she's doing. And I had a lot of fear in the beginning when I first started watching her. I thought, I don't know if anybody's going to watch this because this is real. This is true. This is the truth about our spending and our buying and our overconsumption tendencies and how media influences it and how we break back from that and get to a place of intentional living. And I don't know if anybody's interested in that. Do you know what? I pulled up a video of hers the other day. It had 65,000 views on it. 65,000. I'm sure she has plenty that have more than that. People are very interested in what she is researching and sharing. And I think that is so exciting because it means we're doing it, you guys. We are starting to pick and choose who we follow. And we're starting to draw the line between being influenced and being inspired. And the creators that are out there that are inspiring instead of influencing, that cream is rising to the top. And I find that delightfully exciting. I think it is brilliantly exciting. So Cara Nicole, and again, her byline, I wrote a quote when I watched her yesterday so I would get it right. The intersection between money, media, and intentional living. She is an absolute joy to watch. Her videos are short and concise. She puts them together brilliantly. And you will find one in her lineup. If you just run through her YouTube channel, I'm sure you'll find something that speaks to you, an item you've been considering buying or have bought, or maybe a brand that you're curious about. And I just think she is phenomenal and incredibly brave. I'm just delighted. You think art is the highest form of hope? I think Cara Nicole is the next highest form of hope that we have out there. I think she's just incredible. All right, guys, so let's do a tarot card to get us inspired for a journal prompt, a meditation focal point, an affirmation, or even maybe some artwork in your own life. And I have so many decks in front of me, I hardly know where to go. I think we'll go with the Luna Soul Tarot, that one that I just opened up for you guys. It's a cool little deck. It's got some beautiful fun work on it. Let's see what we pulled together. I am going to do a quick shuffle up. This might take half a sec. Quick shuffle up, and then also I've got to dig out the actual reading because I'm doing this in real time. I hope that you're finding some fun in this community. I hope you'll comment on these videos because anything that you have to share, other viewers can enjoy through your comments as well. I always wonder when I watch podcasts, I live on YouTube. It's my favorite. If we had to get rid of every streaming channel that we have, everything, the one thing I would tell my husband to keep for me is YouTube. And I do YouTube Premium. Do you do that? It's the best money I've ever spent on entertainment because I get absolutely no commercials, no ads, no nothing. It's so wonderful. And I absolutely love YouTube. But I always wonder about commenting. I always want to comment, but then I'm scared I'm going to come off like some loony stalker. You know what I mean? I'm giving you permission to comment here. If you want to comment, do, because I do think this is a place where then other viewers can benefit from your comments as well. If you have some items you'd like to share or some thoughts. So Page of Discs keeps showing up, and also she's on the cover of the little book. So Page of Discs is our card for this week. The Page of Discs. Let's look her up and see what we can find about her. So here's the page. Let's read a little bit about the page in general terms. The page is a very positive card indicating that some new information is available to you that could change things. Whether it is a person, it would most likely be a relative or a friend, or a new tool or technique. Things are going to change for the best as a result. I think that's brilliant for us today as we talk about enjoying podcasts, being inspired by our podcasters' purchases and shares versus being influenced. And then this says we're into the discs. Okay, so page of discs specifically. Be firmly grounded in the earth and in many ways down to earth. The person with this card indicates that it is one that has their head on straight, but also has big ambitions. They know how to achieve those ambitions, and the seeds they are planting will take root. I love it. Let's plant some seeds this week to take root. The page of discs. What seeds will you plant to take root in your life this week? And feel free to share them in the comments below. Journals for Breakfast, episode number 4. It has been a delight to have you here, and I look forward to continuing this community with you. And don't forget to find me at Instagram, Journals for Breakfast there. You can always message me there, and I do posts and prompts there throughout the week as well. I look forward to seeing you guys for the next episode. I hope you have a beautiful week.